Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is Friday. We are done with week 4 of our working from home period. And it is T-shirt Friday. If you can see, John did obviously not participate here. If you're working from home, you should participate. Tell your boss I said it's okay. Just kidding, don't tell your boss that. But anyways, we are here on Friday and we're talking again about stimulus checks. Now, we talked about this yesterday with reporter Bill Thornton, and he had a lot of answers, and we were talking mainly about small businesses and how small businesses could apply for those stimulus checks and what to expect in that realm. So we got a lot of good questions from y'all. Y'all really enjoyed it. But I had a lot of people asking questions about their personal checks and those individual checks that are coming to people who do not own a small business. So we got our own John Hammontree to come on today and answer some of those questions about individual personal stimulus checks. And John, I know that those checks are supposedly going to start coming in pretty soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Ivana. The thing about these massive $2 trillion bills that get passed kind of unanimously from both parties is that there's a lot of moving parts, and so the bill passed a few weeks ago, and each day what we've known about the bill has changed a little bit. What we know right now is that particularly for people who are receiving their payments via direct deposit, those will start going out as early as next week. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to get their money next week. And so if you don't get it, don't worry. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not getting stimulus money at all. For some people, if they are going to be receiving paper checks where they don't have their tax rebates set up to direct deposit, for example, paper checks are going to come out a little bit slower. And I mean, unfortunately, the Treasury Department was saying last week that it could take 20 weeks for some people to receive their paper checks. They said they were going to prioritize need. There's been some pushback. One of Alabama's senators, Senator Doug Jones, wrote a bipartisan letter to the Treasury Department with Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, asking them to expedite the process. There has been some indication that that is happening, but you got to remember that just like so many businesses right now, the government is also running on a skeleton crew. Everybody's working from home. The IRS is this is the time of year where they're supposed to be processing tax returns, and so a lot of people are trying to do a lot of things at once. That's not a helpful answer if you are somebody who's struggling to put food on the table right now. But what we know is checks should start coming next week, and hopefully it'll happen a lot faster than by September. But that is the latest that you would receive them.
So what do you mean that they are talking about prioritizing based on need? Does that mean that somebody is looking at old tax returns and deciding who is the earning the least, or
Yes.
What is that process?
Yeah, so it is based off of if you've already filed your 2019 tax returns, your checks will be based off of the 2019 tax returns. If not, then it'll go back to your most recent tax return, so your 2018 tax return. That'll also be the information that they use for your direct deposit. Doing this off the top of my head, but my understanding is that anybody who receives less than $75,000, any individual who receives less than $75,000, will receive a one-time check of $1,200. Anybody who receives over that amount, it will start decreasing in basically $5 increments up until I think it's $99,000. And if you make more than $99,000, you will not be receiving a stimulus check. There was some push that it should be just blanket money for everybody. There was some push that, if you make too little money, you shouldn't receive a check. This was kind of where it came down in the compromise. But so right now it's a one-time check for people who make less than $75,000 will receive $1,200, and people who make more than $99,000 won't receive anything.
And there was a stipulation in there for married couples as well.
Right. So basically, the married couple stipulation is just take that number and double it. So if you are a married couple filing jointly, you will receive $2,400 if your combined income is less than, I believe, $149,000. If your joint income is that. And then, again, you double 99. So if you're making less than $200,000 as a joint income, you will receive something. But anything more than that, you will not be receiving a check. And so when they say they're going to prioritize it based on need, what I interpret that to mean, and I'm not the government, but I interpret that to mean People who have lower incomes and probably more urgently need that money or have been laid off should receive it sooner rather than later. But again, if you don't currently have your tax return set up for direct deposit, the fastest way to prioritize getting it would probably be to go ahead and file your taxes now and set up the direct deposit so that you can get that money put directly into your bank account and not wait on the paper checks to be printed.
And that's something I guess we could all expect. I know, I don't know. I think that our tax returns come in a paper check, but those are things that we kind of have to expect will take longer because we do live in an age where snail mail is definitely a slower process than electronic.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say yes. I mean, and also, the Postal Service is certainly operating below its normal staffing right now because of, coronavirus has slowed down everything, and so paper checks will take longer than direct deposits.
Right. Well, something you mentioned earlier, and this was a question that I got yesterday, unemployment. If you are claiming unemployment or filing unemployment, can you still get your stimulus check?
Yes. The stimulus checks go to anybody. There are a few technical exceptions. One thing I forgot to mention is if you have dependent children, so any children that are 17 and younger, parents will also receive $500 for each child. That does leave dependents who are 17 to 26 somewhere in limbo. So if you're, let's say you're an 18-year-old high school student and you don't currently have a job, so you haven't been filing your own taxes or anything like that, then those people probably will not be receiving checks. Again, this is kind of changing by the day, but 18, 19, 20-year-olds who aren't paying taxes probably won't receive anything. But we've gotten a lot of questions from people about Social Security, disability, things like that. Those people will receive a stimulus check. For some of them, there's been some back and forth. The congressional bill said they wouldn't have to take any action, that their 1099 would be enough record for the government to be able to send them their checks. After it was passed, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin said, oh, no, actually, they're going to have to file a simple tax return. Then there was pushback from both sides of the aisle, so Trump administration backed off the next day and said, no, you're not going to have to file a simple tax return. But the point being, it's up in the air. If I were on disability or receiving Social Security, I would probably err on the side of caution and just go ahead and file a simple tax return and just anticipate that that's going to be the easiest way to get my money. But the law as it is written now is they should receive that money somehow or another.
Got it. We had a lot of questions regarding people on Social Security or disability, but it seems like the quick answer is yes, you should be getting a check. The longer answer is maybe err on the side of caution and file a simple tax return because there has been back and forth about whether that is needed.
That's exactly right.
We're getting a lot of questions now, so let me jump in there and see what's going on. So, this is a good one. And Adam, I think I might be in your same boat. Adam asks, what about bank accounts that have changed since receiving your tax return? So I guess if you were operating on direct deposit from your last year's tax return, but then now you changed banks and you have obviously a different routing number and things like that.
That's another one of those things that's a little bit unclear, day by day. Again, this is all kind of changing quickly. I will say up front that I don't know the answer. I can give you my best guess, which would be, if they try to make a deposit in a bank account that is closed, then I would assume that it would reject that deposit and you would be issued a paper check. Or the easiest thing I would say would be go ahead and file your taxes for this year and include your updated banking information so that they have that information on file. You don't have to be a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist to think, oh, well, the government has my financial records on file somewhere. So they're going to know how to get you the money. The question is how quickly that money will get to you. So I think that I know a lot of people have had that concern. I think the easiest way to address that concern would be update your financial information. But my assumption would be that money would get to you one way or the other.
So
It
Adam,
may
you might
just
have
take longer.
to, if you don't file your new tax returns or this 2019 tax return with your updated account information, you might just be waiting a little bit longer for your paper check.
I think that's the case.
Okay. And the Cynthia asks, what if, and I'm guessing she means her tax returns, but she says, what if this was deposited on a prepaid card?
There have been some people who have, I think that was one of the things that Senator Jones advocated for, was that, if paper checks are going to take too long, go ahead and issue people prepaid debit cards. That has been something that's been considered. I don't believe, and it could have changed this morning for all I know. I don't think that that's something that they've decided to move forward with. So I don't think stimulus checks will be coming via prepaid card. Although there has been some push from some politicians to, like, if you have an EBT card or SNAP benefits, or commonly called food stamps, things like that, that maybe they would do that. But as of right now, it doesn't sound like stimulus checks are going to be coming via prepaid debit cards.
This is another good one from Gary. If you owe taxes, will it come out of your stimulus check? I guess he means like back taxes or other things.
No, I don't.
Even if you owe taxes this year.
Well, one thing to note is that they have pushed the tax deadline from April 15th, the filing deadline from April 15th to July 15th. So, I mean, theoretically, you should receive the check before that. And my understanding of the law as it is written is that these checks are not taxable. So they won't go on your 2020 tax returns. And I don't think that they will be withholding your 2019 tax returns from it either. But that's another one that I would have to do some more research into. But my understanding is this is a $1,200 check to all taxpayers, and it's not going to be taxable next year. So I don't think they would deduct your 2019 taxes from it.
This is when y'all see me looking down, I'm reading all your questions. Well, Adam, who asked us about the updated tax or the updated bank account information, says that he's already filed his taxes and received your money. So I'm guessing, however you received your money, Adam, means that they've got that updated information on file. So you should be good to roll. Some people are asking about, is this based on your 2018 or 2019 tax returns?
It's based on your latest tax return. So if you've already filed in 2019, your adjusted gross income for this tax return is what it's based on. If you haven't filed this year, but you filed last year, then it's going to be based on your 2018 tax return. So, let's say hypothetically that last year you were very fortunate and you made $70,000, and this year you got a raise, and I'd love that raise, but now you're making $80,000. Well, you might want to wait until after you get your stimulus check before filing your taxes, just to make sure that you're maximizing the amount that you're going to receive. But it is based off of your most recent tax return. We can tell you that pro tip,
guys. And this is my phone's scrolling for me, but I had a good one, and if I can find it now. But we're getting a couple questions again on when these checks will be coming out, the direct deposit especially. Somebody said they heard that it might start even today. So if you can, I know we talked about that earlier, but if you could recap that timeline for some people really quick, and while I find the good question that I had.
I mean, I have heard rumors of people saying that they've already received theirs. But what the Treasury Department has said is that they will start next week. So, I mean, I think that next week would be the earliest that you would receive it. I would love to be wrong. If people have already received it, that's great. Let us know in the comments. But I think that the Treasury Department has said that they will start as early as next week.
I'm not sure if you're going to have the answer to this one, but somebody asked, what if you haven't filed taxes since 2007?
I don't know your financial situation. If you've been on disability or Social Security and you got a 1099, then you probably should be receiving a check of some sort. If you are a dependent, it doesn't sound like you would be a dependent in that case, then maybe not. I think adult dependents, like elderly dependents, I believe might be receiving it, but adult childhood dependents are not going to be receiving them. That's one that I would need to know more about their financial situation, and if they want to email me offline, I can try to answer your questions. It's J Hammontree at AL.com. I mean, I will say the government has to have some sort of record that you are around and are alive. If you are somebody who lives off the grid in a shack in Ball Play, Alabama, and you've made up a habit of never paying taxes and don't have, power and electric and stuff like that, then you might not receive a check, but they have to have some way of knowing where you live and to get money to you. So,
well, Brandon, if you have those questions, email them to John Hammontree. It's jhammontree at AL.com. He can try to help you. I'm guessing you're not totally off the grid because you got a Facebook, but if you ask him, he will do his best to help you out and or point you to the place you need to go. Another question, and we've talked about this before, and I believe that I talked with a financial consultant about a week ago about it, but there's been all kinds of rumors from people who are saying if somebody owes child support, will they get a check or will it be garnished and given to the parent who is owed that child support money? There's been all kinds of rumors about this. What can you tell us about those?
well, that one, to my understanding, is if you owe child support, you won't receive the check; that it will be garnished. That one I don't think is a rumor, and I don't know if it's if I mean, I think my understanding of that would be like you would have to owe child support before this month. I mean, a lot of people lost their jobs in the last 3 weeks, so if you fallen behind on child support check just in the last few weeks, I don't know that would disqualify you from getting the check. But if you've been delinquent for months, for years, then I believe it would be garnished and given to the children, or at least you won't receive it. I don't know if it's going to go to the children or not.
Another question I got that I thought was interesting was, what if we had gone to somewhere like an H&R Block or another company that filed our taxes for us? Will that interfere at all with getting your stimulus check? Or I'm assuming that the company you use to file your taxes, if they were a reputable company or a reputable person, that all your information should be correctly on file with the IRS, and the IRS should just be able to take your information from that paperwork.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, if you go to one of the major tax firms and they filed, or you use TurboTax online, even if they are taking a fee, they're using your personal information, your banking information to file your taxes. So whether you set it up through direct deposit through your tax preparer or you set it up for paper checks, you'll receive it one way or the other. It won't go to H&R Block and then be distributed to you.
Brittany asked, and this is something, it wasn't really a question, but I wonder if you've heard at all about this. She says that the IRS is planning to add a portal on their website for people to update their information if they've had banking information that's changed. Have you heard anything about that?
I know that they've been setting up a website that's supposed to be a one-stop shop for stimulus benefits, both on the individual level and on small business level and other stimulus benefits. It would make sense for that to be a part of it. I'll be honest that I haven't heard that specific part, but I'll look into it. And if that's the case, then we'll update our stories on AL.com to reflect that. But that seems like it would be a good idea.
Norma says, where do people on Social Security file? Do we have to go to the Social Security office?
So if you are on Social Security and you receive a 1099, to kind of reiterate, there's been some back and forth on this, but the law as it's written is that just that 1099 should be enough to get you a stimulus check. The Treasury Department briefly said, oh no, actually you're going to have to file a simple tax return, and then they backed off on that. I think to be on the safe side, you should file a simple tax return, which would basically be that you didn't receive any, taxable income here, but here's my financial information. That's probably the safest way to guarantee that you're going to get the money. But no, you should not have to go to the Social Security office in order to do it.
You should be able to do that online, correct?
Correct.
This is something I'm going to answer. Tell me if I'm wrong, John. But Gary asked, what if you're still working? Do you still get the stimulus check? Yes, is the answer to that. If you fall within those income guidelines that we talked about earlier and that we also have on AL.com, if you fall into those guidelines, yes, you should be getting that check whether you're working or not. This stimulus program is different than unemployment. And again, yes, you can get both. You can be filing for unemployment and then also get the check. And then I have some other questions from several different people about adult dependents. That was something we briefly touched on a minute ago. But if you've got if you've got an adult dependent that you are claiming, are you going to get that extra $500 or any other bonus for those dependents, even though they are not minors?
Sure. So people who are between 17 and 26, if those are your adult dependents, a lot of people, since the Affordable Care Act passed in was it 2010, 2011, maybe even 2013. Anyways, when that passed, children were able to stay on their parents' health insurance up until 26. The stimulus checks, that additional $500, only go to parents of children who have kids that are 17 or younger, and you get $500 for each individual child. So that does leave 18 to 26-year-olds in kind of a limbo state. If you don't have a job and you're 18, or you're in college and you're a dependent, neither the parent nor the adult child is going to be receiving that money, to the best of my knowledge. If you're 23 and you're working full time, but you're still getting your parents' health insurance, I don't know. I think that you should receive receive the stimulus check if you're filing your own taxes, but it does kind of get confusing there. And so I'll be honest that I don't know the answer to that, and I've heard mixed things from the government on both.
So a lot of these questions are actually referring to adult dependents, as in like my mom.
Elderly.
Dependent.
Yep.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So elderly adult dependents, or people who are on disability. It's not always elderly people. I recognize that. I think that they would be eligible for their own stimulus checks, not that their caretakers would be receiving the additional $500. I think for those people, the safest thing to do, again, would be to file a simple tax return. If they're unable to file a tax return, file one on their behalf, and try to make a claim for that money that way. But there's nothing in the law that guarantees, if you are taking care of a sibling or a parent with a severe mental disability, or an elderly parent, there's nothing that would guarantee that you would receive that money. But if they're receiving disability or Social Security or anything like that, they should receive it. The adult dependent should receive it. I hope that answers that question.
A couple of questions from two different people regarding SSI, and saying, what if you get SSI and you don't file taxes through that?
Again, best thing to do would be to file a simple tax return, which basically is like a no-income tax return. Of course, been disagreement within the government over whether they don't have to take any action in order to do so, or they should take some action. So what I've been advising people, and I'm not a tax advisor, I'm just a journalist, but what I would advise people is the safest thing to do would be to file a simple tax return online.
And this is clearing up, I think, a little bit of other comments that we've gotten. So talking about that prepaid card, I think a lot of these people are that are commenting, and tell me, y'all, if I'm wrong. I know you will. That a lot of people who have filed their companies like H&R Block get their return on a prepaid card through the company, not a prepaid card through the government. So some people are wondering, if they use a service like H&R Block or another company that uses that method, will that money go back on that card? And my answer, and tell me if I'm wrong, John, would be no. This money shouldn't have anything to do with whatever company or person that has filed your taxes.
I would guess that that's right. I would advise everybody to contact your tax preparer in that case and see if they have guidance on that. They might even have that guidance listed on their websites. What I would assume, just because it would be the simplest explanation, is that the government is going to cut out the middleman, and it's going to send those checks directly to your home. But it's also, H&R Block is a massive company, and it's possible that they could negotiate some way to put that money on the checks quickly. I have not heard about that case, but I'll look into it, and if that is the case, we'll update our stories on AL.com. But I think the simplest solution would be contact your tax preparer and ask them if they have guidance on that question. Sorry that I don't have the answer.
No, that's a specific question. I'm going to give you a few more, and then I know you've got lots of stories to write, and obviously you've got more things than you originally planned to write. So one question is, this is interesting, and this might go back to some of the things that me and Bill talked about yesterday about some of the small business checks. When you're getting those, there are certain things that you are supposed to use those on and that you need to document that use. So Elizabeth asks, what can you use this check on? And just building off of that, is this something like those small business checks that you need to document what you spend that money on, or is this kind of a free-for-all?
This is a one-time, no strings attached government injection of cash into your personal bank account. There, it's not going to be taxed next year. You don't have to spend it on, groceries. You don't have to spend it on bills if you don't want to. I would guess that for most Americans, particularly since so many Alabamians and people around the country are out of work, that's what they're going to spend it on. But it's, you can spend it however you want it. If you want to spend it on 600 lattes, you can do that. But it's your money. Spend it however you want it, and you don't have to document it.
Maybe, Elizabeth, maybe the lattes would not be the best idea, but it's up to you, girl. Do what you got to do. Carol asks, this is a good question because we've talked a lot today about simple tax returns. So Carol asks, how do I do that? How do I file a simple tax return?
Sure. I'll tell you what, we will post a step-by-step guide on how to do that on AL.com. But if you just Google simple tax return, but if you go to the IRS website, they would have a place where you can do that. But we'll publish a step-by-step guide that I think would probably answer that question the best. And if you need to email me to get a link to it, jhammontree@al.com, and we'll make sure that we walk you through the process. There are also
I was just going to say, whenever that is up and ready, we will post that here in the comment link. And so then everybody that has these questions about these simple tax returns or how you need to do that, as soon as that is published on AL.com, I will drop a link in these comments so you can have it quickly accessible. I'm sorry to interrupt you, John.
No, yeah. Well, I was going to say there are also, in addition to H&R Block and things like that, there are free tax preparation services like Save First is a subsidiary of Impact America, and they work with people to file free tax returns. And so they might have resources available. But we will post we will post an article today that explains how to do that. You have my word.
I'm going to answer a couple of quick ones of these. I'm getting a lot. Number one, what if you don't do direct deposit? Then you will get a paper check in the mail. And this is all assuming you meet the guidelines. 2 from Reggie, if you're receiving unemployment, yes, you can get this from your unemployment. And you're welcome, Gary, for our help. Don't thank me. Thank John. He's much more the brainchild on this than me. And let's see, again, disability, Social Security. We're going to have an article explaining more of that because it looks like there's a lot of questions. We will leave it here. But again, we're going to go back to those simple tax returns. And then another one about have the checks been issued. That's kind of a $1 million question. They are supposed to be being issued in the next couple of days, especially you're going to get it first if you have direct deposit set up. And if you do, then you might be getting yours sooner rather than later. The people who are waiting on those paper checks, you're going to take a little bit longer, unfortunately. So I think that's all we have time to answer right now today. If y'all are interested, I can definitely try to bribe John to come back and answer some more of these questions.
Let me say one more thing about unemployment, because I meant to say this and I didn't address it. One other thing that this bill did was it expanded unemployment benefits. So in the state of Alabama, you typically just get $225 a week for unemployment. The stimulus package expanded that where you'll get an additional $600 a week from the federal government for unemployment. Alabama finally updated its unemployment procedures yesterday. So if you're one of the 17 million people in America who've been laid off in the last 3 weeks, don't just wait on this stimulus check. Go ahead and file unemployment. Those benefits have been increased for a reason. So go ahead and do that.
That's great advice, John. Thank you so much. And again, we'll have some more info for you on AL.com about all of this later, answering some of these questions. I will put that here so y'all can access that easily. And happy Friday. Y'all enjoy your Friday. Make the best of this day and this weekend. That is my Easter preaching moment of the day. And if you celebrate Easter, have a wonderful Easter. And we will see you on Monday.